Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has accused Russia of deliberately targeting Azerbaijan's energy facilities inside of Ukraine. This comes after Russian drones struck a SOCAR oil depot in Odesa, leaving 4 workers seriously injured and damaging key infrastructure. Zelenskyy said the strikes were not only against energy supplies, but also against cooperation between Kyiv and Baku. He warned that such attacks humiliate ongoing diplomatic efforts to end the war. Ukraine says Russia launched demonstrative strikes on Kharkiv, Zaporizhzhia, Sumy and Odesa ahead of peace talks in Washington. 7, including a toddler, were killed in Kharkiv, while missiles in Zaporizhzhia have left 3 dead and 20 people injured. Kyiv warns Putin is attacking to undermine diplomacy and demands stronger security guarantees. Zelenskyy made the remarks ahead of his trip to Washington, where he is set to meet President Donald Trump. Well, joining me to discuss these developments is Glenn Grant, an ex-advisor to the Ukrainian Defence Minister, who joins us live from Kyiv. Glenn, let's first look at these strikes that have taken place overnight. Volodymyr Zelenskyy saying, of course, this is potentially a move to destabilise and ahead of these talks with US President Donald Trump. Do you see it that way?
At all. I mean, we were expecting Russia to attack, and frankly, last night I was down in the bunker for a while, and I thought we might get attacked 3 or 4 more times. We didn't, but Kharkiv, Sumy, and Odesa were. America and Trump, they don't even notice these attacks. Let's be blunt about it. It's wallpaper for them. Well, I think that, you know, much more important are the things that are coming out of America this morning, many of which are contradictory.
Yes, Glenn. Could you expand on that, please? Of course, we've had comments from Donald Trump overnight. I'd like your insight.
Yeah, I mean, we all saw Donald Trump on the carpet. He was a really, really unhappy man. But Vitkov has gone on TV this morning saying that that there were lots of big wins during the meeting with Putin, and that those big wins show that there's the opportunity for a full peace. Not just a ceasefire. That's why they're not looking at a ceasefire. Well, I mean, Donald Trump did not look like a man who just got big wins. I'm sorry about that. But then there's this second thing: is this uncertainty about these security guarantees, because Putin has said, Trump has said that you know America will make security guarantees, and then apparently he's told Zelenskyy that there's no chance of NATO. So it's really unclear what America possibly could provide as a security guarantee if NATO membership is not on the table. And then the third thing, which is really unsure about, is the meetings that are coming up, and whether Trump will see Zelenskyy before he sees the Europeans, or the Europeans before he sees Zelenskyy, and what. You know, whether the European view is going to be anything more than, again, wallpaper in the background. It's quite clear from the discussions on TV of Vitkov and Rubio this morning that Trump is pro-Russia, that they are all pro-Russia, and that they intend to pressurize Zelenskyy to give up Donbass, or there will be no support from America. Now, in the meetings, this may not happen. It may change. But that is the message that is coming out very strongly. And if that's the case, then basically, United States is siding with the enemy, with Russia, with the enemy of the Western world. And that is something that is, you know, it's a tectonic shift in the status of the, you know, the world relationships.
Well, Glenn, let's build on whether that stance could shift. Of course, we have seen Trump often change his perspective after meeting with a certain party, whether that's him directly or one of his delegations. Do you think that Europe will have any sway over Trump's comments relating to territory ceding or other matters that Ukraine have said are red lines?
It's very, very difficult to say, because if you look at this, you know, Trump went into the meeting, and while he was on Air Force One, he said very clearly, if there's no ceasefire and if Russia doesn't, compromise, massive sanctions. And he came out and said there's no need for sanctions. Well, these things are just so up and down that it's impossible to judge whether he will take notice of Europe, and he may because he likes some of the European leaders, or whether he will just dismiss those because in his mind the big thing is to get peace. And he believes that by bullying Zelensky, he can get peace. But I can tell you from Kiev this morning, there's nobody who will be very happy with Zelensky if he tries to give away Donbass.
Glenn, let's now look at what we opened the programme with. Of course, Volodymyr Zelenskyy accusing Russia of striking Azerbaijani energy sites within Ukraine. Of course, there have been strained relations between Russia and Azerbaijan. Do you see this as a tactical move from Zelenskyy?
I more see it as a tactical move from Russia, with attempt to put the pressure on Azerbaijan, because both Azerbaijan and Armenia seem to be slipping away from the Russian grasp. So it could well be on that side just an attempt to to remind Azerbaijan that Russia is next door and they can't misbehave. Zelensky's there is nothing Zelenskyy can say about Azerbaijan or about Kharkiv or anything that's going to change this meeting at all. So he may think it's a tactical move, but frankly it isn't, because Trump will take no notice of it.
Yes, and Glenn, finally, to bring an end to this discussion, I want to look at the strikes that have taken place again, and rather looking at diplomacy, looking at the civilian impact. You, of course, join us from Kyiv. You said that yourself you spent time in bunkers last night. How devastating to civilians in Ukraine are strikes of this kind from Russia?
Well, I mean, when you see the strike in Kharkiv, which was, heavily targeted by, I think, 7 Shahids into one building, and it completely trashed the whole of the top floors of the building. I mean, top floors, they've just gone. And as you said, 7 dead, including 1 child. And the problem with the problem with Sumy and Kharkiv and Kherson down south is that they're so close to the front line, is that the actual warnings that come from the general staff arrive after the missiles have actually struck, because there just isn't time to make these things work. And that was extremely devastating. But the message coming out of Kharkiv is that Kharkiv is going to resist and is not going to give up. And there are still lots of people living there, despite the fact that enemy drones fly over the top every day, and people are being targeted individually by Russian FPV drones. So, but they still stay there, and they still live there, and they're stubborn. So it keeps going.
Well, Glenn, thank you ever so much for that insight on all of those topics. Of course, in this